Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are thrilled to have you with us today's webinar on navigating global opportunities in law. In tonight's session 8 of Pradeepaya 2.0, we are honored to feature the inspiring Minul Muhamdiramge, 2024 Cheving Scholarship recipient and LLM graduate from Queen Mary University of London. As an attorney at law, Minul will share his remarkable academic journey and his experiences in studying in law abroad in the UK, providing valuable insights for anyone interested in pursuing higher education and career opportunities in legal field. Let me first give you a brief overview of the Pradeepaya 2.0 project. This is initiative led by the Leo Club of UOC alumni is centered on the theme of quality education and literacy. It aims to create comprehensive knowledge hub for students and graduates across Sri Lanka, providing guidance on exam preparation, higher education pathways, and career development. We hope this session will inspiring and valuable resource for your journey in law. The phase 3 of this project is specially focuses on raising awareness among GCE A-level students, undergraduates, and graduates who about the overseas educational opportunities available to them. Tonight's session is the one of series designed to give you a deep understanding of international study options. The focus of this session is on law, a field of with the word exciting opportunities abroad. You will gain valuable insights into scholarships, exchange programs, and the essential steps to make your dream of study law internationally reality. Before we begin, a few ground rules. If you have any questions, please direct into the Zoom chat. There will be Q&A session at the end of webinar where our speaker will address your questions. Without further ado, on behalf of Leo Club of UOC alumni, I would like to warmly welcome Minul Aya. Over to you, Aya.
Thank you so much, Narthana. I will probably not have my video on for throughout the period of the session, solely because I want to focus on the presentation. I was going to ask whether to carry out the discussion in English or Sinhala, but for the purpose of the discussion, I'll probably use both languages, but mostly English. Solely because if everyone's studying abroad, I feel like that might be a requirement. But I will also explain some of the things in Sinhala, so it's easier. Okay, so before we start, I want to quickly share something a little bit more interesting. Actually, first I'll introduce myself. My name is Minul Muhamdiramge. My background in law is mostly corporate and commercial law. My LLM is also actually focused in commercial arbitration. It's called Comparative and International Dispute Resolution. I topped my batch in my LLM program, which I finished basically last month, a couple of months ago in September. I graduated from Queen Mary with a distinction. I'm also Shivning Scholar of 2023-2024. So most of the things I say will be based on my experience in the field, as well as my experiences while studying in the UK. But first, because everyone really enjoys law when they see it on screen, I'm going to quickly share my screen and play a couple of video clips just to make it interesting. Then we'll, of course, revert back to my presentation, which is probably going to be a little less boring than the video clip. Okay. මම කොහොමද මේකේ ස්ක්‍රීන් එක ෂෙයාර් කරන්නේ Chrome එකට මට තප්පරයක් දෙන්න මම ඩෙස්ක්ටොප් එක ෂෙයාර් කරන්නම් එතකොට හරියයිද කියලා බලමු මගේ ස්ක්‍රීන් එක පේනවද
ඔව් අය පේනවා.
හරි
There's no body camera footage from Officer Granger. Officer Granger's body camera was malfunctioning that day, Your Honor. Luckily, there's an ATM with a camera just across from where this alleged altercation occurred. Is there a monitor we can use? Your Honor, the people welcome any footage Mr. Howard wishes to present. It will only serve... Mr. Choi. Your Honor, may I have a moment to confer with Officer Granger? Why, of course, Mr. Choi. The court is made entirely of time. What's happening? Liars, Jim Cotton liars. Okay, time served. Only if you drop down to selling without a permit and expunge the whole thing from his record. Fine. Good news, Your Honor. I believe we've come to an agreement after all. Anything you need? No, hopefully I won't have to take you up. So there was a camera on the ATM down there? Was it? Never let it picture, huh? Now it's on that camera? That I have no idea. So what's on the flash drive? It's just you my dad used to. Yeah, I noticed there was no body camera.
හරි. දැන් මගේ presentation එක share කරන්නම්. සිංහලෙන් කිව්වොතින් මේ සාකච්ඡාවේ අපසරේ යන්නේ ලංකාවේ ඉඳන් පිටරට ගිහිල්ලා නීතිය කියන විෂය කොහොමද ඔයා ස්ටඩි කරන්නේ? ඊට පස්සේ ඔයාට අනාගතයේ තියෙන opportunities මොනවද කියලා තමයි මම මේ presentation එකේ පොඩ්ඩක් කියන්න යන්නේ. ඒ වගේම scholarships මොනවද තියෙන්නේ ඔයාලට ස්ටඩි කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙන්න මොනවා වගේ universities වලද ඔයාලට ස්ටඩි කරන්න පුළුවන් කියන එක මම පොඩ්ඩක් cover කරනවා. Now to revert back to English, the scope of this presentation is essentially going to be on how you can study law abroad. Most of it, as I said, is going to focus a lot more on my own experiences, but I will give you a little bit more in-depth information that you will not have access to usually when you think about studying law abroad. Now, why do law? Now, if you watch the video, that's from Lincoln Law. It's one of my favorite law series. If you're not a lawyer yet, you probably like Suits more than Lincoln Lawyer. I have a clip from Suits also, which I'll probably play in a bit. Now, the reason why you do law is because the world becomes your oyster when you do law. You have access to everything. You have, you can travel abroad, work abroad, work here, work in almost any kind of field you want as a lawyer. And also, regardless of the field you are in, you can benefit from doing law. Whether you do medicine, whether you're in a corporate, whether you are an engineer, knowing law is always something that will help you. That is why a lot of professionals actually end up doing law. Just to give you context, a lot of prominent figures in the world has done law. Barack Obama is a lawyer. Our Sri Lankan PM Harini is Mrs. Harini is a lawyer. Harini Amanusuri is a lawyer. Fidel Castro, I think, was a lawyer. Nelson Mandela, I think, is a lawyer. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mahatma Gandhi, I'm not too sure, but I'm pretty sure all the others were lawyers. Which means there are influential world leaders who are also lawyers, solely because of the kind of background you get when you are a lawyer. නීතිය පාඩම් කරාම තියෙන පන්නරය වෙන කිසි දෙකින් ඇත්තටම ලැබෙන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද නීතිය කියන්නේ හරිම බ්‍රෝඩ් දෙයක්. හැම ෆීල්ඩ් එකටම ඇප්ලයි වෙන දෙයක් තමයි නීතිය කියන්නේ. ඒක තමයි අපි නීතිය කියන වෘත්තය සහ විෂය පාඩම් කරලා ඒ වෘත්තය ඉගෙන ගන්නේ. ඒකෙන් තමයි මම හිතන්නේ. දෙවන දේ තමයි law is a profession, which means you will always, regardless of where you practice law, if you decide to be a lawyer, you will always belong to a professional body. If you're in Sri Lanka, you will be part of the BASL or the AG's department. If you are in UK, you'll be a barrister who's part of a professional organization. So it's a profession that is recognized everywhere in the world. Doesn't matter which country you go to, you will always be recognized as a lawyer in every single country. So that is something that is unique to law. Maybe there are a couple of other professions like that. For example, medicine and doctors have similar recognition, right? There are some countries that actually call lawyers doctors as well. I think Uruguay is one of them. The third thing is, law gives you access to different kinds of fields. Doesn't matter where you want to work in, when you are a legal professional, not a lawyer, ඔයා නීතිය පාඩ හදාරලා තියෙනවා නම් ඔයා ලෝයර් කෙනෙක් නෙමෙයි, ඔයා නීතිඥයෙක් නෙමෙයි, හැබැයි ඔයා නීති ඉගෙනගෙන තියෙනවා නම් it gives you opportunities into various fields. I'll explain what this means in a little bit when I talk about careers in law, but I want to have that image in your head as to why you do law and why you do law abroad. This is a common misconception that you have, that if you are a lawyer in Sri Lanka, that it's harder for you to actually transition to work abroad. That is, while it's true that it's hard, it doesn't mean you can't do it. Because law, the idea is that you learn Sri Lankan law, you don't, like maths is math everywhere. Medicine is almost medicine everywhere as well. Law, sometimes you learn Sri Lankan law, you learn different kinds of laws. But when you really think about it, law is actually um, very similar across the and almost all the countries in the world. And because we are a common law country, um, that means you are anyway going to end up studying laws that exist in both UK and most other common law countries, which means it's very easy for you to transition and study law abroad. My discussion is going to focus a little bit more on UK because my experience in law is in UK, but I'm going to give you other options as well, so you have a bit of a holistic idea. Okay, now careers in law. There are various careers in law that is not strictly restricted to you going to courts, but of course that is part of it. Now in Sri Lanka and abroad, I'll firstly give an idea about UK, and then I'll give you what the alternative in Sri Lanka looks like. There are two types of lawyers. One is a barrister. Barrister is the person who actually appears for you in court and advocates in court for whatever. So in Sri Lanka, that's called a counsel. You usually call them counsels. Those are the people who go in court and speak on behalf of you in court. Solicitors are mostly, they're also lawyers, but they do a lot of the preparatory work that is involved in a case, but also they do a lot of other things. For example, they do contract drafting. They make all the documents that is required for a case. They are the ones who communicate with the client and keep tabs of all of the commercial work, corporate work. If there is conveyancing or any land issue that needs to sort of be done, that is the work of the solicitors. So solicitors deal a lot with documentation more than barristers, because barristers do both oral and written advocacy, but the purpose of being a barrister is for your skills as a oral advocate, not just your skills as a written advocate. Now, going beyond this, now in Sri Lanka, we don't have this distinction between barristers and solicitors because we only have one attorney at law exam. However, in UK, you have a separate path for barristers and separate path for solicitors. In Sri Lanka, solicitors, probably the equivalent for solicitors is instructing attorneys. If you are a lawyer, you would know what this is. They're the ones who sort of take on the case, prepare most of the initial documents. They're the one who do deeds assigned mostly by instructing attorneys. Things like that are generally done by instructing. Very similar to the role of a solicitor. It's just that we removed the distinction between a solicitor and barrister, I think, after 1972 constitutional changes. Yeah. Okay. Going beyond that, there are so many things a lawyer can do. You can be a legal officer of a company. It doesn't matter whatever the company, most companies require legal officers solely to attend to their contract agreements, to look at compliance work. Different companies have legal officers. And if you're working for international companies, your legal officers are generally well paid. And it's unlike solicitors and barristers, legal officers of companies generally have 9 to 5 jobs. But it's also interesting if you want to sort of have a little bit more structure in your life. And when you go abroad, it's easier for you to become a legal officer of a company than becoming a barrister, for example. I'll explain why this is a little bit later on. You can be legal consultants. For example, there are legal consultants for things like data protection, tax, intellectual property, all of these things. I've actually worked with a firm that works in data protection, and I've also worked with a firm that deals with AI specifically while I was in the UK. So all of these fields is something you have access to when you're a lawyer. It depends on what your passion in law is. So if you're just a lawyer who haven't figured out your passion yet, UK is the best place for you to figure it out, because in Sri Lanka, areas aren't really divided. So when you go abroad and study, you'll realize, okay, this is something I'm really interested in. I can actually pursue a career specifically focused in this. Like, for example, I am more focused on international arbitration. So I plan to, that's the reason why I went to do my LLM, but I want to work in Sri Lanka for a few years before I decide to change my career path, solely because I wanted to come back. But of course, you might make a different decision. Now, you can be policy advisors, you can be researchers. If you knew the government, most of the ministries have legal advisors. Most of the ministries, apart from legal officers of the ministry, ministers themselves have legal advisors as well. Governments have policy advisors. There's various research that needs to be done. You can be lecturers. Actually, you can be a lecturer of the university you end up studying in the UK or US as well. It is becoming a teaching assistant is actually a relatively easier career path than most, at least at the start, solely because you'll have a foot through the gate already. You can be legal tech consultants, and of course, you can get into judicial roles, which is a little bit more of a complicated situation where you, uh, instead of becoming a practitioner, you become a judge or an arbitrator or someone of a judicial capacity. Okay. And this list is not exclusive. This list continues to go on because you have access to so many different jobs when you're a lawyer. Just keep that in mind, because in Sri Lanka, we have this idea that being a lawyer has restricted amount of options. You either go to court or you become an attorney or you work in a company. That is not true, especially if you're abroad. Having a LLB, which is a bachelor's in law, or being a solicitor gives you so many more options. Barrister's options are very limited, but we'll get into that because barristers is a title you get. Even a Sri Lankan can be a UK qualified barrister, so you'll be dual qualified then. A lot of my colleagues in the UK, few of my colleagues in the UK are dual qualified. Sri Lankans who are in UK dual qualified in the sense they are barristers in UK and they are lawyers in Sri Lanka. It's more of a it's also a title that is recognized. It's not just it's basically it's not just something, it's not just an academic qualification. Okay, now that being said, මම දැන් බලන්න ඕනේ මාට දැන් කියන්න යන්නේ UK වලට ගිහිල්ලා ඔයාට මොනවද තියෙන options නීතිය හදාරන්න. ඒ කියන්නේ what are the options you have available to you to study law abroad. Now, if you're in any other kind of field, you generally have probably three options. That is, you have the bachelor's that you do, you have the master's that you do, and you have the PhD. Now, all three of these options are, of course, available to you in law as well. But I'm going to speak about two additional options first before I get into bachelor's, master's, and PhD, because I'm sure all of you, most of you will have an idea about all three of those options. Okay. Barristers and solicitors. Barristers කියන්නේ UK වල මං කිව්වා වගේ ලංකාවේ bar exam එක වගේ එකක්. ලංකාවේ අපි attorney at law කියලා කරන exam එක වගේ exam එකක් තමයි barristers කියන්නේ. Solicitors කියන්නේත් ඒ වගේම exam එකක්. හැබැයි ඒ exams දෙක සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම වෙනස් ලංකාවේ එක exam එකට වඩා. ලංකාවේ තියෙන එක attorney at law exam එකයි UK වල තියෙනවා barristers කියන්නේ bar training course කියලා 9-month period එක course එකක්. ඒකේ exams තියෙනවා periodically වෙන examinations තියෙනවා කියන්නේ oral advocacy test කරනවා written advocacy බලනවා. Barristers or the bar training course is a more comprehensive exam that basically trains you to be an advocate in court. That is the purpose of the BTC. Barristers is offered by quite a few universities like University of Law, City University, Birmingham University, apologies, BPP Law School, City University, Cardiff, Metropolitan University. There are few universities that you can Google up and find out how to do barristers and what the requirements of barristers are. The basic requirements of barristers and solicitors are actually not simple, but similar. You either need a law degree, or you need to have done a degree in another field, but you need to have done a law conversion course. Law conversion course is an option that is available when you have a different degree. For example, if you have an economic degree, you can do a law conversion course to convert to be eligible to do barristers or solicitors in the UK. Now, barristers is roughly 9 months, but some people generally take up to 12 months to finish the BTC because it's not an easy exam to pass, because lots of individuals from everywhere in the world comes to UK to do the BTC. Americans, Europeans, lot of South Asian countries, lot of Commonwealth countries come to do the BTC. In the UK, for example, Mauritians, because I had a lot of few friends in Mauritius, they qualify in the UK instead of qualifying in Mauritius. For example, instead of doing attorney at law exams in Mauritius, they do the barristers in UK because it's a pathway that's available for them. That's actually a pathway that's available to Sri Lankans as well. Instead of doing all 3 years of law school, if you have an LLB, you can do the 9 months of, you can do the barrister's exam. Like, for example, if you have a private university LLB, or if you have a LLB from a different university in Sri Lanka, not law faculty, you can do the barrister's exam and then come back, and you have certain exemptions that you get. You only have to do the final year exams at attorney at law, if I'm not mistaken, if that hasn't changed, because barristers is a title that is recognized everywhere in the world. You can even end up practicing in Australia. For example, if you have barristers, basically you need to qualify in Australia also, but barristers is recognized in Australia as well, because Australia has a similar system. Now, of course, you need to do the Australian exams. Is that it's somewhat more easily accessible if you are qualified in the UK. Solicitors is similar. Now, if you are trying to work in the UK, solicitors is a much easier alternative than barristers, solely because exams are tougher and the pathway after barristers is tougher. Because after you do barristers for 9 months, you don't get a job. You have to do a 6 months pupillage, which you have to apply and get. And it is not easy for you to get this pupillage. It's extremely, extremely difficult for you to land a pupillage in the UK because the competition is that high. So it generally would take you a year plus for you to land that 6 months pupillage. That will allow you to actually be a practicing barrister in the UK. A lot of individuals who are barristers in Sri Lanka who have done the barristers don't do the pupillage solely because how extremely competitive that getting a pupillage is. Pupillage is basically for you to be able to work with a senior barrister in the UK. It's similar to the apprenticeship procedure in Sri Lanka for 6 months, but it's extremely difficult to land a pupillage in the UK because only some barristers can give you the pupillage. Not everyone can give you a pupillage in UK. Process is somewhat difficult, different. It's the same with it's not the same with solicitors. Solicitors is much easier in the sense if you have done a solicitors, it's so much easier for you to enter the job market. Solicitors has 2 different exams called SQE1 and SQE2. Similar entry requirements, you need either a law degree or a different degree and then do a conversion course. You don't generally get, this is like a technical requirement. For barristers, I think you get visa. You can apply for visa because you're part of a law school. But for solicitors, if you're only doing the exams, it's difficult to get visa. So what most people do is they do a solicitor plus there's a route that allows you to do a solicitors and an LLM. While the LLM itself is not recognized, at least it allows you to get visa and stay in the UK to finish your solicitors. I think University of Law offers this LLM program, and there are few other universities that offers this program. Of course, you'll have to do your research on this. But when you do solicitors, you can easily, I mean, let's not say easily, but it's much easier than barristers for you to enter the job market in the UK. So if your plan is to go to UK and find jobs, then solicitors is a route that you really need to consider. Okay, I'll quickly go to Bachelor of Laws because I realize I'm going slower than I thought. Okay. This is the traditional route. If you're after your A-levels, you can apply to do a Bachelor of Laws in the UK. If it doesn't matter whether you have local A-levels or London A-levels, you can do your bachelor's in UK. And you probably, if you have good results, you have a very good chance of getting into a good university, even something like Cambridge or Oxford. If you have 3 years and if you've done really well in your school, like for example, if you are a high achieving student in school, you can even get into Oxford or Cambridge straight away from your A-level results. This is something that a lot of people don't know. Because of the fact that our focus is on let's get into Sri Lankan university immediately after exams. But if you can apply with your local university grades to any most of the law schools, not just in UK, you can apply to Aussie, you can apply to USA, you can apply to UK as well. And if you get in, that's really good. Same thing with London's. You can apply to, of course, if you have London A levels, you can apply to law schools abroad. That's also something to keep in mind. Okay. Bachelor of Laws is very similar to a bachelor's that we do here. It's a 3 or 4 year law degree that you get. I'll focus a little bit more on masters because that's my area of expertise. Now, you can do masters for few reasons. One is if you want to be academically qualified in the field that you are interested in, ideal. The reason why I picked my master's is because I wanted to be specialize in commercial and investment arbitration, because there are very few academically qualified commercial and investment arbitrators in Sri Lanka. I actually don't. Maybe there are like a handful of people who actually specialize in this particular field academically, right? That's my reason for doing masters. And if you have a good masters in the UK, if you decide to stay in the UK and work, you can enter the job market through your masters. But you are not a lawyer yet if you have your LLM. Will have to eventually do your solicitors or your barristers if you plan to practice in UK afterwards. You can enter the job market, for example, as a legal consultant or an advisor in a different corporate firm or a firm. But if you want to be a practicing lawyer, you will of course have to do solicitors. But masters gives you 2 years of visa. If you do a masters, you get 2 years of postgrad visa. That is when you decide, okay, this is how I'm going to enter the job market. This is this is where I'm going to work, and figure those things out. You will, I know I have colleagues of mine who are Sri Lankan who've landed sponsorships solely because of their LLMs. So if you do masters and if you manage to enter the UK job market, you can do it. And when you do your masters, there are few things you need to keep in mind. First thing is, okay, what is your area of passion and what has the most amount of recognition in the job market in the UK? You shouldn't just pick universities that says, okay, this is ranked well in the UK. Look at universities that are recognized inside the UK, not just world rankings of those universities, but look at what universities have the highest rate of ability to enter into the market. For example, is the LLM from this particular university, or other, do people who have an LLM from the university enter the job market in the UK or wherever else you want to work in? For example, with an LLM in UK, you might be able to work in a different country, right? Or even you might even end up working in a country like Dubai, if you fit that criteria, or even Singapore, or not Malaysia maybe, but Singapore or Dubai, because a lot of UK qualified lawyers ends up in practicing in different parts of the world, including Hong Kong. So think about, okay, what's my passion? What's my area of passion? Is this university recognized enough to get jobs in the UK? Does my area of interest have jobs in the UK? Your passion shouldn't leave you broke. So you need to balance your passion with, am I able to get a job in the UK? For example, there are some specialisms that are particularly interesting right now. Things like data protection has a lot of data protection and GDPR related specialism, that's data protection related specialisms, have a very good job market. Tax has a job market. AI job market is picking up quite a few. I did a lot of things related to AI during my LLM. My dissertation is actually on AI and arbitration as well. And I managed to score my first internship solely through, because of the fact that I realized I paid attention to AI, even though I'm doing a specialism in arbitration. So you need to figure out, does my specialism, the LLM I'm trying to do, have a market in the UK? You shouldn't do a specialism that has no jobs. That's a really foolish way to spend your money. Think about, okay, this is a specialism I'm going to do. These are the subjects that I'm going to do. Do these subjects actually have some amount? Will these subjects actually allow me to enter the market? You need to think a little bit more deeper than, okay, good university, let's do something there. Think a little bit about, does this university have a lot of people working? Does my specialism have jobs right now? Do the subjects I pick have jobs in the market right now? Or how do I do those kinds of subjects? When you do research, you will know what to look for. Last, of course, this thing is PhDs. If you are doing a PhD in law, there are very few reasons for you to do a PhD in law if you're a practicing lawyer. One is, of course, you have a very strong academic background, and if you are a writer, or if you are someone who has who has an interest in field like arbitration, or a field that exists outside of the courtroom. Because there are very few practicing lawyers in the UK and outside of the UK, even in Sri Lanka, that requires you to have a PhD to be successful in practice. Or that means you need to have an academic interest in law to have a PhD. right? So keep that in mind if you are trying to spend time on a PhD, because it's 3 years of your career that you're spending on the PhD. For example, I am thinking about doing a PhD solely because, one, I have an academic interest in law. Two, because my field, I hope the individuals in my field are generally more recognized if they are PhD qualified, because arbitration exists outside of courtroom. Even prominent arbitration practitioners in Sri Lanka, like Dr. Asanga Gunawan sir, has a PhD. I think his PhD is from NUS, I think that's National University of Singapore. So it depends. The choice to do a PhD is something that you need to really think hard about, because it's 3 years of your career that you're going to sacrifice. And yes, PhD opens up job opportunities in academics and in research, but it doesn't always help you with practice as much. So think a little bit about, this is something I looked into solely because I was considering a PhD extensively. So if you already have an LLM, and if you're thinking about doing a PhD, think about why you are doing the PhD, because don't commit 3 years of your life into the PhD without thinking about it. That's something. And if you are committing to a PhD, that is excellent. Sri Lanka really needs PhD holders to come back if you're coming back. And even if you don't come back, you have so much more opportunities in academics and in different aspects of the profession, maybe not as a practitioner, um, but in other fields of law that will really allow you to access the market. Okay. That being said, I need to wrap be a little bit faster. Let's talk about how you can apply for your bachelor's. As I said at the beginning, if you're planning to apply for bachelor's, you can do it right after your A-levels. You can, even if you have a bachelor's already, you can still do another bachelor's in law in the UK if that is something you are interested in. Few things, and if you are planning to do your master's, if you have a bachelor's, generally most of the good universities in the UK expect a second upper. However, there are some universities that are maybe not the top ranking universities that allows you to do a master's even without a 2-1, or the other alternative being you are professionally doing really well. For example, if you are a state counsel with 10 years of experience, or if you are a private counsel with quite a bit of experience in the field, then you have something else to trump your academic. So just because you don't have the necessary academic requirement doesn't mean you can't do a good LLM in the UK. Second thing, research well into the universities you want to apply for. You need to do different kinds of research. Look at, of course, the starting point is going to be the university rankings. The second thing you're going to do is look at the specialisms that are offered by the different LLMs available. There are two kinds of LLMs. There are general LLMs and also specialized LLMs like the one I did. So you need to figure out, am I doing a general LLM? What is the purpose of the general LLM? Am I doing a specialized LLM? What is the purpose of me doing that specialized LLM? Look at the subjects offered, look at the kind of lecturers who are teaching them, because all of these things will play a part in when you actually decide to enter the job market. Because to be real, the reason why you plan to go and study abroad is to earn well abroad. If you have that goal in your mind, you need to constantly be thinking about, okay, what gives you the best odds when I enter the market afterwards? Think about that when you apply for your master's. There are different sites that will give you access to different LLMs, but the best place to start is the university websites, but then do Google research into the other things I told you about. Application process for most LLMs, bachelor's and PhDs are relatively straightforward. You need to have a very strong personal statement. When you write your personal statement, make sure you get it double checked, either by an individual who has gone to a university abroad or by an individual who understands the concept. Ideally, a person who has actually written personal statements before, but definitely get it checked. Ask your university professor in Sri Lanka to check it for you. Ask your colleagues who you know who have an idea about how statements are written to check it for you. But make sure you write your personal statement well, because it's a very important part of your university access. YouTube was extremely helpful to me. So YouTube is always the best starting place, but Google and then go to YouTube. You need strong reference letters. If you're applying for a LLM or a PhD or even your bachelor's, most universities expect academic reference letters. But if you've been in practice for a while, then you can, of course, supplement it with one academic reference and maybe one professional reference. You need your university transcripts that your university will give you. Columbia University, there's a process to apply. Apply well in advance because sometimes Columbia University takes a little bit more time. You need to do your IELTS. There are other things to do, like for example, there's another exam you can do called TOEFL or TOEFL, if I'm not mistaken. I know the score for IELTS for some universities it's 7.5, some universities it's 7. So look into that, look into the IELTS requirement. Your IELTS is only valid for 2 years. So generally do your IELTS closer to your university application time. So even if you don't get in the first time, you have another chance next year. Okay. What are the law universities that are recognized around the world? Generally, the best places to study law is UK and US, and probably Australia. UK has the most amount of options. UK probably has, UK is, I think, is somewhat more cheaper than USA because UK education in States is more expensive. But you may be lucky in terms of fee waivers in UK or USA than UK. So your first options has to be UK and US, and if you're not, you can consider universities like Hong Kong and Singapore also has really good universities, and so does Australia. These are pictures from different kinds of different universities. This one is Harvard. This is Oxford. This is Queen Mary. This I think is Cambridge. Yeah, this should be Cambridge. Yeah. Universities abroad will give you one thing I always say about one thing I've learned about studying abroad is the university environment in UK and even States is unparalleled to the university environment you get in Sri Lanka. It's not just about the learning experience, it's about individuals you meet, it's about the kind of people you work with. It's an experience that will make you want to study harder. It is an experience that will motivate you to work more and think very differently than you do when you're in Sri Lanka. Solely because our university structures takes a lot more time to adapt than universities abroad. To give the basic example, none of our law universities right now, at least to my knowledge, teach us things like tech law, data protection, AI, because it takes time for Sri Lankan universities to adapt to new concepts that exist. Foreign universities adapt very, very quickly, which means when you study abroad, you will realize there are so much more things you can do with your academics. And you have so much more options with your academics. Think about which country you want to study in. And when you're picking the country, don't just pick it for the university. Also think about whether you want to study in that particular country. Because there are so many things that you get offered when you are studying in US. It's closer to home. Probably you can even fly back. There are options, different kind of culture that exists in the United States. There's a different culture that exists in Australia. There's a different culture that exists in Canada. There's a different culture that exists in UK. Think about all these things when you pick universities. I would, of course, recommend UK, but please don't restrict your choice to UK, because there are very good universities in US and very good universities in Australia as well. University of Sydney and University of Melbourne is particularly good if I'm yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Now, I think one of the most important questions, especially if you're trying to study law abroad, because it's extremely expensive. You will probably spend in the ballpark of 20 million rupees if you're studying abroad. That's a lot of money to put into academics. It'll probably take you 5 years plus if you're earning that amount in Sri Lanka. Realistically speaking, if you're after undergrad, it'll probably take you more than 5 years to earn that. So if you're putting 20 million to study abroad, you need to be able to recuperate that cost, basically cover that cost after you study. Or you need to have a scholarship that will back up your cost. So it's basically you'll be studying almost without an expenditure at all. There are various scholarships that actually facilitate this process. Chevening Scholarship, Commonwealth Scholarship, Fulbright, Erasmus, and university-specific scholarships. Chevening and Commonwealth, there are two kinds of Commonwealth scholarships, Commonwealth and Commonwealth Shared. All these three scholarships are offered by the UK government itself. They are extremely good scholarship that cover both your university fees as well as your living expenditure. So you would basically be able to study in the UK as well as live in the UK without worrying about your financial cost, which is a massive benefit, especially if you are someone who doesn't have the finances for it. And if you do have, even if you do have the finances, 20 million is a lot of money to spend. Just one thing about Commonwealth. Commonwealth scholarship is only accessible to local university students. Like if you have a 4-year degree, not a 3-year degree from Columbia University, you will have access to the Commonwealth scholarship. Otherwise, you'll have to do the Commonwealth shared scholarship. Doesn't really matter which scholarship you apply for. Both are really, really good scholarships to apply for. Erasmus Mundus is a different scholarship that is for low universities in the Europe. Basically, how the scholarship works is you basically study in 2-3 different low universities, and then the scholarship covers all of them. You do different semesters in I think different. I'm not sure whether it's different countries, but definitely different universities. Sometimes even different countries as well. It's a really good scholarship, solely because this is from experiences of my friends who were my batchmates who did it, who had the Erasmus scholarship. Erasmus scholarship is a recognized professional scholarship in Europe. If you're an Erasmus scholar, it's much easier for you to enter the European job market. Maybe not the UK job market, but much easier for you to enter the European job market. Your university fees are covered, and you have an option to enter the European job market. Research into scholarships like this, because if your plan is to actually earn money, Erasmus scholarship is a very good scholarship if you can get it. Fulbright is a US scholarship that is somewhat similar to the Chevening scholarship. There are, of course, pros and cons of all of these scholarships. Fulbright scholarship operates a little bit different to Chevening. For example, Chevening allows you to pick the university yourself. Fulbright has some restrictions on the choice of your universities. So look into how the scholarship functions. But of course, again, it's a fully paid scholarship. So really, really good. Or else the other option is there are very university specific scholarships that are given by each of the universities. Oxford has the Rhodes Scholarship, Cambridge has the Cambridge Gate Scholarship. A lot of the universities have different scholarships to look into. Look into them and see whether you're eligible. There are different eligibility criteria for these scholarships. Read up on them, apply for them, because you might not get majority of them, but you only need one scholarship. So if you get one, you're sorted. Apply to all of them and see what works. And of course, if you tell them you have financial trouble, there are university fee waivers as well, but that's like 5,000 to 5,500 pounds. But something is still better than nothing. So definitely consider it. That is on scholarships. Okay. Now, application process for Chevening and Fulbright and Erasmus are, of course, very different. They have different deadlines. So you need to go through all of those deadlines. Chevening scholarship deadline is actually in a couple of days, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's within this week, within the first week of November, if I'm not too mistaken. So read up on that. Fulbright scholarship is long gone. It was somewhere in April. Commonwealth scholarship is also ongoing. Erasmus Mundus, I'm not sure about the deadline. You need to double check that. You need to, if you're going to apply soon, make sure you apply to these scholarships first, because that'll give you an idea about whether it'll make it easier for you to apply for universities afterwards, because you have time to apply to universities, but scholarships take a lot longer. Okay, now what to do when you are studying abroad? You of course need to do, if you are doing law, you need to apply yourself in multitude of ways, because entering the job market abroad means you need to make connections. Networking is a big part of entering the job market abroad. You need to make connections at different kinds of networking events. Your university will organize them for you. You need to read up on the events that are available and attend those events, make connections, get their visiting cards, reach out to them on LinkedIn. You need to have a really, really good LinkedIn profile as well if you're planning to go abroad. Refine your LinkedIn, look at how other individuals abroad have, individuals in the field of law has sort of done their LinkedIn profiles. So because when you network, LinkedIn profile is a thing people connect you with. So you need to have a strong LinkedIn profile. Now, other thing is, can you work part-time while doing masters? Of course. In Australia, you can probably cover a significant amount of your living expenditure while working part-time. In UK, you're probably not going to be able to cover as much because UK job market doesn't pay as well as Australian job market does. But you will probably be able to cover your living expenditure, as in your accommodation and your daily food needs and whatever. There are various ways to get into part-time roles, but the best way is to work up to, whether it's a bar, a hotel, or whether it's a university. Actually, the best way is to apply to university options. They are way better paid than most other options. When you're applying to the university, write to the university, ask them whether you can work as a library assistant. Look at the job opportunities available in the university and apply for them. They are much better paid than all the other jobs available in the outside market. If you can't land a job at the university, if you can land one, brilliant. If you can't land one, there are various ways to get jobs outside in almost all the countries, whether it's US, UK, Australia. Some UK is a little bit harder than most other countries, but of course, if you apply yourself, give it a month or so, you will find a job. You need to sort of connect with different professional organizations. This you do at networking events or when there are events hosted at your university, right? This is the way for you to land jobs later on. Sri Lankan job markets operates very, very differently to the UK job market and US job market even. So you need to do all of this to land a good job in the UK. Ideally, you should connect with fellow Sri Lankans or other individuals. There's an organization called ASLAC, that is an association for lawyers in UK, Sri Lankan lawyers in UK, that will sort of give you can connect with them, but they're not going to give you jobs. They will at least tell you how to look into the market. And even if that is not the case, reach out to other fellow Sri Lankans through Facebook, through LinkedIn, and ask them how they did it. And even if that is not the case, reach out, ask your professors how they did it. There's very good career advice in your own university. Reach out to them. You'll get a better idea of how to connect with these organizations. Last thing is participate in different things that happens in your university, whether it's debating, chess, whether it's sports. Participate in them because you get connected with the other individuals of your university, and that's how you find jobs in the UK. Okay. Life abroad. I think this is something that is uniquely possible for individuals who study abroad, and I wish every Sri Lankan got this opportunity, especially university students, is that you get to travel to various different places around the world. You get to these are all these pictures pictures from traveling I have done within the last few months. I only had a very little time, so I put like few pictures from my gallery. These are probably not the best pictures, but this is few places I've traveled to. And a lot of Cheveners in my batch travel to different parts of Europe, different parts of UK, and even outside of both Europe and UK, right? When you study abroad, you probably will earn enough money to allow you to travel abroad while you are doing your masters. That is something that you won't get while you're doing your masters in Sri Lanka, because you can't earn as much, solely because your earning capacity is very limited. And of course, it's very difficult to obtain visa abroad. Traveling will allow you to sort of enjoy different cultures of the world. And I think it makes you, one thing is, of course, it's extremely fun to travel, but it also opens your eyes to different cultures that exist and different kinds of developments that exist in different parts of the world. If you decide to come back, you can incorporate these as part of your profession, these cultures, and you connect to individuals from different parts of the world. You will have friends already in your university who are from different parts of the world. You'll have friends from India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Europe, US, UK, South Africa. You will have friends, all of these individuals at your university. So traveling becomes much easier, because you might even have friends you can stay over at in different countries. Or you will have people who will tell you where to travel to. So if for nothing else, so only for the experience of enjoying life and culture in different parts of the world, really consider doing your masters abroad and come back and see what you can do in Sri Lanka from that. That is it on my end. I think I kept it to 45 minutes, maybe a little bit more. Okay, definitely a lot more than 45 minutes. I apologize, Aisha. I think I took a little bit more time. I can wrap it up unless you have questions for me. Nartana?
Yeah, guys, if you have any questions, please unmute and tell it, or like put it on your chat boxes.
I think, Aisha, you sent me a few questions beforehand, right? That was asked.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want me to go through them very quickly?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I think I answered most of them. Is it hectic to do a full-time master's in the UK? Of course, it's very hectic, but that doesn't mean you can't do a part-time job while you are earning. I work part-time sometimes, but a lot of my batchmates did. Scholarships available, I think, are we covered in the presentation itself. You can find jobs and internships after you start studying, but of course, different countries have different rules, so you need to be careful about the amount of hours you can work. So in UK, you can only work for 20 hours a week, not the entire 40 hours. Same thing with Australia, same thing with US, I'm pretty sure. Tips for evening interview, I think that's a much broader conversation. That'll probably be, if you look at a couple of the evening YouTube videos, you'll probably get that. And I'm pretty sure we'll be conducting a few sessions on the evening interviews, so I'll probably cover it there. Best legal pathway to take is a very broad topic. The question is, what is the best legal path we can use? There is no right answer to that, but my question, my 2 cents is, if you're planning to work abroad, solicitors will probably give you best odds. If you're planning to work in a specific field, or if you're planning to do well academically, masters will give you best odds. If you want the basically the what's the word for it? The reputation of being a lawyer, barristers will give you what you want, is what I would say. What's the future of law as a career with the influence of AI? Oh, that's a really interesting topic of mine in law and AI, but I don't think this is the place to start that conversation. One thing I will say is this: everywhere else in the world, including countries like China, UK, US, AI has become very much a part of the legal profession. A lot of things we do using manual labor is legal research, drafting, initial drafts, contract drafting, reviewing. All of these things are now done with the assistance of AI, which means if you're going to work abroad, you will definitely be using a lot more AI. And hopefully in Sri Lanka also, we'll probably end up doing the same thing. So yeah, AI is going to be a big part of the legal career, but it won't replace lawyers solely because legal advice, the kind of legal advice you give always has a human touch, with AI cannot yet replicate, but maybe in the future. I think I went through all the questions, Aisha.
Yeah, I have one question. The scholarship that you have introduced to us, like is it only belong to legal background people, or it's like open to all?
All of the scholarships I have spoken about, Commonwealth, Chevening, Fulbright, Oxford, Rhodes Scholarship, Cambridge, all of them are open for every single background. It doesn't matter which field you are in, you can apply to all these scholarships. There are scholarships in Australia as well. Australian scholarship is called Australia Awards. If you have specific questions about the scholarships, you can actually reach out to me. I can direct you to the individuals who are past scholars, or individuals who are sort of heading this thing in Sri Lanka. I can connect you to those individuals. That, of course, you can reach out to me personally. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. If there is no other questions, shall we wrap it up, or are there any more questions?
I think these are the only questions that we are getting. So I think we can wrap up. So
perfect. Thank you so much for having me. And this is the UOC Alumni Leo Club, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really great that you guys are doing this session, this series of sessions. I really hope people actually end up watching these set of videos, because it'll really help people when they decide to study abroad. I wish somebody had this session with me when I decided to study. When I started researching for like 2 years ago on masters, it would really cut down my time. So kudos to you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. We have reached the end of this insightful session, and I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our wonderful speaker and everyone who joined us tonight. We hope the knowledge and experiences shared have provided you with a valuable guidance and inspiration for your journey in pursuing international opportunities in law. Remember, every step you take towards your goals bring you closer to realizing dreams. Thank you once again for being with us, and we look forward to see you in future sessions of Pradeepaya 2.0. Wishing you all the wonderful night and very best in your academics and professional pursuits. Good night.
Good night.